Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another intriguing young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kylee McGrane-Zarnoch. I'm based in New York City, and I'm the founder and executive director of A Moment of Magic Foundation. I grew up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is a somewhat small town outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania. It's kind of smack dab between Philadelphia and New York. I was raised by what I consider real life superheroes, which are two public school teachers, my parents, and I have two younger sisters. And growing up, I had a really big dream to move to New York City. I did not know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be, but I knew that's where I wanted to go. Growing up and having two parents as public school teachers, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and they become my first and my best friends because they were essentially my daycare. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. You can actually see them right here behind me. Their pictures with me every day. And when I was in high school, my grandparents were hospitalized long term. And my grandmother had gone through some serious health complications. She had battled several chronic illnesses throughout her life. My grandfather had a life-changing accident when he was a crossing guard. And I just remembered the experience of their hospitalization, both on them and on my parents. When that situation happened, my parents had the experience that I think so many people did, where they became kind of the sandwich generation, where they were taking care of myself and my sisters, but also my grandparents. Because of that, we spent a lot of time in the hospital. And I remember going to see my grandparents and walking into the hospital space and immediately feeling this overwhelming sense of anxiety. You know, the lights are really bright, they're fluorescent, and you hear the ominous beeping noises somewhere down the hallway. And the hospital always smells really funny and clinical, and it doesn't feel like home. And although the hospital is a space for healing, it doesn't always feel that way. And I remember feeling that sense of anxiety, and I got to leave. And that always really stuck with me when I was going to visit them. But despite that, my family continued showing up for my grandparents however we could. So whether it was just regular daily visits or finding ways to celebrate the hospital despite them being separated from us and separated from each other, we continued to do that. And my senior year of high school, I started this tradition where before any big milestone in my life, whether it was prom or formal or graduation or whatever it was, we had to go see my grandparents. So that often meant going into the hospital space wearing these ridiculous outfits, usually big prom ball gowns full of sequins and sparkles. And I remember that really making a difference, both for my grandparents and for me. Where it was this really simple moment where, for a few seconds, They weren't a patient, they were a person. I ended up pursuing my dream of moving to New York City, and I went to a small liberal arts college in the Bronx. And my freshman year of college, my grandparents, who were married for 65 years on Valentine's Day, passed away within 2 weeks of each other. That was really one of the first times processing grief in my adult life. And I really had a hard time with it, especially being removed from the rest of my family and trying to figure out, this new chapter in my life and figuring out my place in the world as an adult. And I really just kept going back to those moments where, despite all of the bad things that were happening, we found ways to laugh and find joy in the hospital space. So I was talking to my mom one day, and she just made this passing comment about Frozen and Elsa from Disney and kind of making this comparison between the two. And it just kind of clicked to me where, what if I dressed up like Elsa from Frozen and went to children's hospitals? And I decided to go the first time, and it changed my life. I went to a children's hospital in Long Island, New York. It was a 202-bed hospital. I thought I would be there for a few hours, but I was there for over 4 hours. And I remember meeting a little girl on the hematology oncology floor. And when I first met her, she was very shy. But by the end of the visit, she had really come out of her shell. She sang the entirety of the Frozen soundtrack on repeat. And it was that same magic where she went from being a patient to being a person just because of social interaction and spending some time together. And I left that hospital knowing two things for sure. One, that was all I wanted to do for the rest of my life, was creating those moments of magic and joy and connection. And two, I definitely, most certainly did not want to do it alone. So because of that, I decided to start a nonprofit organization called A Moment of Magic. And our mission is to spark joy, foster connection, reduce isolation, and support the mental health and well-being of children with critical and chronic illnesses. And we do so by activating and training college students from across the country. Now, flash forward 10 years later, we've partnered with more than 350 hospitals. We've activated students at more than 30 college campuses across the country, and we've impacted more than 150,000 children. And I'd like to consider us just getting started. We've expanded our programs from the original princesses and superheroes to also doing mental health education by using play, because we know that's how kids learn and experience the world. So it's been such an amazing ride, and I'm so excited and honored to share our story here with you today.
Wow. What an incredible journey you are on. It's
Thank
just amazing. And what really excites me is this sparked because of your childhood experience, being in those hospitals.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, definitely. I think sometimes going through those experiences, when we're able to take pain and make it purpose, I think that's sometimes the most beautiful things are able to come to fruition out of that.
So, what challenges did you face in scaling this into a national organization?
There have definitely been a lot of challenges along the way. I think logistically, I never started this organization with the intention of running it as a business. It really started as a passion project, and one, a way for me to process grief, and two, just very simply a way for me to just give back and connect with my community. So taking that idea and then transforming it into a business, I was really going into uncharted territory for me. So it was learning a whole new language and set of skills that I didn't have experience in. So I
Yeah.
really had to get comfortable with asking for help and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and being able to connect with people around me that really wanted to help me grow and believed in the vision of the organization.
That's so beautiful. So, how does your team support the mental health needs of both the children and the volunteers? Because it's
So
got to be difficult seeing little kids who are unwell.
definitely, definitely. When it comes to working with children, we have a few different programs, and I think the one that speaks best to mental health is our program called Express, Create, Heal. And in order to talk about the program, I love talking about how the program started. And it's actually because of a volunteer. We had a chapter president at Ohio State University. Her name is Bridget Rogers, and she's actually a pediatric cancer survivor herself. So she's someone that came to the organization with that lived experience and was so heavily involved and invested in the organization. And I was talking to her about what we as an organization and what we as a community are doing well and where we could be doing better. And from
Wow.
her experience, where we could be doing better is better supporting the mental health of our children, especially our children most at risk. And children
Yeah.
with cancer and other serious illnesses are 7 times more likely to experience a mental health challenge. And I think that's really important information to know because we already know mental health is such a pressing issue for our youth. But as we were talking about that, something that she had been experiencing as a volunteer was that through these events, kids were very organically and naturally opening up to our volunteers because it felt like a safe space. They were using the interactions and the play based activities to express what they were feeling. And we
Mm.
really wanted to make sure we were doing that responsibly. So, making sure that we were training our volunteers responsibly and creating really curated, facilitated programs to give that proper outlet. And then on the back end, making sure that our volunteers are supported. We have someone on our team that's a mental health specialist that is there to help both in the training creation for our volunteers, making sure that they understand the signs of things like emotional burnout and secondary trauma, and also
Yeah.
have someone to talk to because it is really important that they are taking care of themselves as well.
Wow. There's a lot of work involved and a lot of moving pieces that need to be taken care of. Now, what's the core message of your book, Your Magic?
I love that you brought it up, and I have it right here behind me.
Mhm.
So we created the book Your Magic because we really want to make sure that every child knows that they are seen, they are valued, and they are celebrated. And that's what we do with the book. We introduce a cast of 30 original characters that come from all different types of backgrounds that look like all of the children and volunteers that we work with every single day. And they're actually inspired by our volunteers and the children that we work with. And the core message is that whatever makes you different or unique, that's worth celebrating. And that's what your magic is because it's something that only you can bring to the world.
Oh, I love that. So you're really focusing on individuality and celebrating who you are as a person.
Yes, yes,
Um,
definitely.
Now, how do play and imagination impact children's healing journeys?
When a child is hospitalized, there's such a priority put on their medical well-being and their physical well-being because that is the number one priority. We have to get that child better. And of course, that needs to be done. But with that, the child can lose access to things like going to school regularly or going to soccer practice or seeing their siblings or their parents regularly. And all of those touch points of socialization, all of those interactions with just being a kid and just being able to play, that does take a profound impact on their mental health. There was a study that we looked at that during a given week of being hospitalized, a child has about 35 strangers come into their room. And most of those strangers are there to do things like check their IVs or access their port or perform some kind of medical procedure. So being
Yeah.
to provide them with the opportunity to play, to laugh, to just be a kid, it gives them that experience to be a person and not be a patient. And we have to make sure that we're prioritizing that in their overall well being as well.
So important. So, what role has storytelling played in your leadership?
I think storytelling has been critical in our organization. I was growing the organization out of my college dorm room about 10 years ago. And we were doing visits all up and down the East Coast of the United States. But what was really helping us gather momentum was sharing the impact about what we were doing on social media through pictures and through videos. And that really helped other people connect to who we were and what we were doing and how they were supporting us and get involved, whether that was becoming a volunteer or connecting us with another hospital or nonprofit organization. My senior
Um,
year of college, we ended up having a video go incredibly viral. And it really is because of this story. People connected with what we were doing, and that
yeah,
singular video launched us to be a nonprofit organization.
that is so crazy. It's amazing what happens when your intention is right. Magic happens. And I love the fact that you use that word. It
Yes,
is magical.
definitely.
Now, how did your TED Talk and the Clinton Global Initiative experiences shape your advocacy?
I think for the TED Talk, it really helped us get our story out there. And as a nonprofit organization, you're constantly trying to amplify your work, which is why being a part of podcasts like this is so important, helping people learn about your organization and connect you to other families that might need support. Just continuing to get your name and your mission out there. And the TED Talk gave us the biggest stage we've ever had to be able to do that. And that was an incredible opportunity. Being a part of the Clinton Global Initiative, we were able to bring our Express Create Heal program to their first group of fellows. We were their inaugural group of fellows for their program last year. And one that helped so much, with the amplification of our program and the credibility of what we were doing, being able to say that they supported us. But for me
Yes.
as a leader, I learned so much in that program. Throughout that opportunity, I was able to participate in different learning initiatives. We followed a curriculum. I was able to connect with other social entrepreneurs. And so much of being an entrepreneur is head down in the work every single day in front of your computer. And being able to be in a space that was so learning based and collaborative, it was such a rare and unique and valuable opportunity, and one that I am so incredibly grateful for.
So, what advice would you give young entrepreneurs who want to build purpose driven organizations?
I think the first piece of advice that I would give is that you have to be willing to put yourself out there and to just start. I think so many of us are perfectionists and
Mm,
we want to keep everything to ourselves until we feel like it's ready to go. But if
yes.
we're waiting for, the moment or for our product or for ourselves to be perfect, we're going to be waiting forever. And
Yes.
we can't hold ourselves back. We have to be willing to put ourselves out there, and we have to be willing to maybe mess up or maybe learn the hard way sometimes. But another muscle that I think we also have to be willing to exercise is being willing to ask for help. There is
Yes.
so much I don't know, and so much I'm not an expert in, and so much I'm not good at, that asking for help and delegating and building a strong team, that's how you scale and that's how you become sustainable.
Mm. Yeah, and hiring those people who complement your weaknesses, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't be a jack of all trades.
Definitely.
So, how do you personally manage burnout and self care while leading such an emotionally heavy work?
This is definitely a skill I'm still learning and trying to improve every single day. I think I spend a lot of time trying to continue to build, and I find a lot of value in that. I get a lot of energy in that, that I am not very good at taking a step back until I get to that burnout phase. So I'm really trying to learn how to improve. But I think you're not of service to anyone else if you're not of service to yourself. And that's a message that I'm constantly trying to remind myself, is that you have to take breaks, you have to take time away, and you have to take care of yourself and really be honest. So if it's an emotionally heavy day, it's okay to put the work down, and it's okay to call a friend, to have that designated person. For me, it's usually my mom. where I'm calling my mom and just connecting with her or asking her questions on how she would navigate certain things. Also making sure that you're finding time to laugh. I don't think that we as adults find the time to play and laugh enough. So making sure that we're doing that. So much of this work is so serious, but we can do serious things while also having fun.
Yeah, that's so true. You have to keep it light. So,
Definitely.
what's a moment from your work that left a lasting impact on you?
There have been so many. I think so many of my interactions with the families, that is why I continue to show up and do the work that I do.
Mhm.
Um, I always go back to a story with the first little girl that we ever went and visited outside of the hospital space. It was her first birthday out of the hospital in a few years, and she had just found out that she was no longer having to go through cancer treatment. So she was officially cancer free.
Right.
And we went to that hospital visit, and her mom told us at the beginning, she might be really shy, she's very reserved. But by the end of that visit, every single one of I think there were 6 or 7 princesses there. Every single one of us considered ourselves best friends with her. We
Wow.
just really made a connection. And we still talk to that family very regularly, and she's now in high school, which I
Oh,
think just goes to show that lasting impact. We're not a one and done organization. We continue to show up and foster these really important connections with these families.
yeah, and you maintain those relationships. That's really beautiful.
Definitely.
So, what does the future look like for a moment of magic and express, create, heal?
As we're really doing a lot of research in this space, we're learning that there's so much work to be done. There's
Mhm.
a lot of great work already being done by people like social workers and child life specialists that do so much work on the ground every single day for children with cancer and other serious illnesses, specifically supporting their mental health as they're going through the hospitalization process. But I think
Yeah,
we as a community can better understand what children and families are going through and how
mm,
we can better support them. So we're really aiming to become a leader in that psychosocial space. We want to
yeah,
develop more programs, we want to train more volunteers, but we also want to educate our community. So we're actually doing research on the vulnerabilities that the pediatric cancer community faces and how we as a community can learn and equip ourselves to better support them. So
yeah.
if the challenges aren't as tough as they are right now.
Oh, wow. So, how can listeners get involved or support your mission?
So this is one of my favorite questions. So thank you so much for asking. There are so many ways to support a moment of magic, whether it's as simple as signing up for our email list or following us on Instagram, visiting our website, amomentofmagic.org, just learning more about who we are and what we do and helping to share it with friends and family, whether
Mm,
that's someone that works in a hospital or someone whose child might benefit from one of our programs is incredibly helpful. We're always looking for volunteers, whether you are a college student or you have a professional expertise that you might be willing to lend to the organization. And then, of
mm,
course, as a nonprofit, we are completely grassroots funded and donor powered. So if our story spoke to something in you and you want to make a donation, our website is the best place to do that as well.
that's awesome. Now, when you talk about the power of giving, why is giving so important for the future of humanity, do you think?
I think it's really important for each of us as individuals to feel like we are making a contribution. And I think it's
Mm,
important for us to make that contribution. I think finding your cause and finding what you are passionate about, maybe it is supporting children with critical or chronic illnesses, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's housing, but finding your cause is critical, and we all have one. And then going a step further and finding the organizations that are supporting that cause, we need the support on behalf of all organizations out there. And we're people powered, and we need people and communities to come together to solve these big problems, or else they won't be solved.
So, how has your definition of magic evolved since starting this journey?
I think the most beautiful thing about magic is it's really simple.
Mm,
I think for a lot of us, we think of magic that's big and grandiose and sparkly, and of course it can be all of those things. But for me, magic is a lot more simple. It's a lot more quiet, and it's usually in those moments where we go in and a child is feeling one way, and by the time we leave, they're feeling a little bit differently. And you can feel that shift in the atmosphere just through those simple interactions.
yeah,
That for me is magic, is really human connection.
that is beautiful. Now, my last two questions are a bit of a thought experiment.
Okay.
The one, I'm going to teleport you into the past, and we are going to go and meet that young girl who knew she could make a difference, wanted to do something that had a social impact, had no idea how to do it, how it was going to go, how it was going to turn out, didn't know it would end up being a national organization. Just in case there's someone who's listening to us right now who feels that urge, because not everybody does, right? You could go back and give yourself three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point. What would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Oh, that's a really great question. And to limit it to three is hard. There's so many pieces of advice I wish I can go back and tell myself. Um, I think first and foremost, you have to believe in yourself the most because no one will believe in you if you don't believe in you. And it can be hard to do to walk into a room and try to feel confident or to believe that you have the skills and the capability, especially as women, we feel so plagued by things like imposter syndrome, but you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in your work. So really, working hard and doing the things that you need to do to further the work, but also trusting yourself and knowing that you wouldn't have the opportunities you have if you didn't deserve them. So, number one is to trust yourself and to believe in yourself. Um, Two, I think goes back to what I shared before is asking for help in building your team. You are only as good as the people around you. And I have been so, so lucky to have the most incredible people around me. Not being afraid to ask for help. People cannot read your mind. And that is a lesson I've definitely learned the hard way. So being very clear about your asks, really being intentional about bringing people onto the team that fill spaces where you need to grow and can challenge you, I think is really critical. And celebrating their wins and making them feel welcome and supported is really important. And three, and sometimes most important, is to make sure you're having fun along the way. I think as perfectionists and sometimes people pleasers and overachievers, we're constantly looking for the next thing or the next item to check off or the next accomplishment we want to go after. But as we're doing all of that, we are accomplishing really amazing things. And to make time to celebrate those things, to take time to reflect on how far you've come and to be happy and find joy in those small moments, that's what's going to sustain the work along the way.
Absolutely great advice.
Thank you.
Last question. I am going to teleport you into the future this time, and we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. And this wise woman is either sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her dogs, her cats, whoever's with you at the end. But knowing you, you'll be in your tutu on the dance floor playing with some kids. If I could teleport you into the future to go and meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
This is a hard question. I think I think it's really critical to stay committed to your values as you're running an organization or as you're chasing opportunities. And I want to really be intentional to stay wholly committed to those values. So that is my goal when I meet my 90-year-old self, is to have a lot of fun and be successful and do all of those great things, but also know that I stay true to myself and was authentically myself and showed up as I am, and gave other people the space to show up as themselves as well. Because I think when we are ourselves, we inherently give other people the permission to show up as themselves too. And I think that that's a really powerful skill to have. So if my 90-year-old self is sitting in a rocking chair in a tutu, then she's definitely authentically showing up as herself. So that is my goal for that age.
I absolutely love it. The other reason why I like asking that question is that a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in them, that she is that quiet voice that inspires you to take action, that says, go left, go right, say yes, say no. And we're always looking outside of ourselves for answers instead of going within. So I have a little game that I like to share on my show, in that I play with the energy of who I am becoming. And I ask her questions, and she's guiding me to where I'm going. So sometimes when I get stuck and I don't know what the next move is, I go into my meditation and my prayers, and I ask, what is the next step? And I go to sleep with that question in my head. And then I'm in the shower the next morning and I have those light bulb moments and I know exactly what the next step will be. Or I talk to other people about what I'm working on, right? And by the end of the week, each person gives me a piece to this puzzle that I'm putting together. Like you were saying, don't try and do everything by yourself. So thank you for listening to your wise woman and living this incredible life, bringing so much joy to so many children who need it when they're ill. It's an absolutely inspiring project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that. That is going to be an exercise I adopt to move forward with. I think it's kind of the same idea as trusting your gut, but so much more fun. So I love that.
Yes, talk to her. She's there waiting for you to turn 90 and wear your tutu and continue the work. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are someone who sees something in your community where you feel you can make a difference, just take the first step. That's all it takes. And today is a beautiful example of what happens when you believe in your vision and your dream. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks again for the interview. Don't go away. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.